Hi. The next victim, or say speaker, we have Anuj Adhiya, and he is the director of engagement and analytics at growthhackers.com. I guess many of the marketers, entrepreneurs, they have been using this because that's a lovely platform to get inbound. Or probably like you're gonna tell me more about it, but I guess the growth hackers, definitely those who are trying to take their company, take their initiative to the next level, that'll be a perfect platform. And it's such a lovely community because there are people always to give you ideas, always to support you. And the guy we have here, he's gonna tell us more about it and how the platform is growing and how it's impacting the business, so everything. And let's hear it from Anuj.
So as you said, I'm the director of engagement and analytics at Growth Hackers. So what that means is I do everything related to the community, whatever happens on and off, getting people to the community, keeping them, and I'm also part of our growth team for our growth collaboration product, and we run a lot of experiments on the community and on the product, just to understand more about what it takes to make our own business grow and sustainably.
Right. So, firstly, because I know about your story, how did you land up to growthhackers.com, as the right guy for them? But it'll be really amazing and inspiring for people to know, that this is also a way to land up to your favorite job, I guess, or do something you love.
Absolutely.
So definitely go ahead.
I used to work for a medical device company.
Wow.
And so my degrees are in chemistry and biochemistry. So as far
that's
away.
interesting.
But there's actually a connection to marketing, which I'll get into.
Sure.
I was following people on Twitter like Sean Ellis, just to learn more about marketing. And Sean tweeted about the launch of Growth Hackers just once, and of all the thousands of tweets I could see on September 30th, 2013, because that was the day my life changed.
Amazing.
That was the one tweet that I saw. And when I got on there, I saw that people were discussing all of this great marketing content, and I had coincidentally also shortlisted a lot of similar marketing content, and I very selfishly thought at that time that I'll just use Growth Hackers as my social bookmark.
Must be.
So
Yeah.
I'll just submit content, people will discuss it, I'll learn something more. I had no desire at that point to engage in any other way.
Yeah.
But as it turned out, I submitted this content, and people like Sean and other big names would discuss it and ask me what I thought, which was just unbelievable to me that all these big names are willing to talk to somebody who knows nothing about the space.
Right.
You start submitting content every day because you get it feels really nice, right, when all these big names are welcoming you. And,
Absolutely.
And being very non-judgmental and are looking to educate. And so I started submitting content every day because I was looking for that sort of that high that you get, right, when big names interact with you. And before you know it, something like that becomes a habit. You keep submitting and becomes like the first thing you look at every day and on the weekend.
Amazing.
But just as a function of doing all of that, I was learning more from them.
Yes.
It seemed like there was a joke within Growth Hackers at that point as to, what the hell is my job other than hanging out on Growth Hackers?
Oh, nice.
Because it just seemed like it, even though it was not the case, it seemed like I was just there all the time.
Yeah.
And so it just became one of those things that they're like, this is ridiculous. Like
that shows how much active you were there.
Right, because because I was just there, I saw all these patterns amongst different pieces of content that when I saw something similar, I started commenting saying, hey, here's a related piece of content, even though I knew nothing about growth.
Yeah, but at least you were directing people to the right thing and connecting up every time.
Right, and that was helping the community because it was helping people discover older content other than what was just on the trending page.
That's amazing.
And I was also skeptical as to how I could help the company at that time, given that I knew nothing about growth and marketing. And the insight that Sean provided was that growth hacking is nothing but applying the scientific method to marketing. And so all of us in school have been in chemistry labs and physics labs doing experiments. And in all of those experiments, you did a pilot experiment where you tried to get a broad range of a signal, and then you did more experiments to get something exact.
Absolutely.
And that's what growth hacking is, right? You look for a signal and then you double down on the signal.
True. True.
So as somebody, he's like, you actually have the right background.
Yeah, highly relatable.
That the skill is completely transferable to growth. And in fact, the first experiment doc that I used was something I used in college for my experiments.
Wow.
And that stuff like that got incorporated into our product. And so that's how I became involved with even trying to figure out, how does our own product grow, because we were dog fooding it every day. So that's the story of how somebody who knows nothing can land up running a community like that.
Wow, that's really inspiring. This is the reason I told you, you should tell people, by being an active member you can actually end up being a director. That's amazing. That's nothing can be more inspiring than that. Cool. Moving on, let's talk more about the community and the tools and the pattern and the techniques you're using. So the next question will be growth of growthhackers.com probably. Let's I want to listen some stats, some numbers probably, some numbers, but not in
Sure.
I'm not sounding like a stakeholder or founder.
Right.
Give me the numbers, but at least a number to give an idea to people, and then an overall growth.
Right. Growth Hackers is, I guess, way above 300,000 people right now.
Amazing.
And it's composed of startup founders, heads of marketing, heads of growth, engineering, creative, sales, investors. Because because at the end of the day, growth is not something that some magical growth hacker sitting in a corner does.
True.
You need the entire company working cross-functionally to make it happen, and that's part of the message that the community is trying to get through, is that it's a team sport.
Absolutely.
So you need everybody involved to make it happen, and so you've got all of these different segments that make up the community, and I guess the main sources of traffic are people coming directly now. Because there's just a lot of brand recognition now. People coming through search, and in many cases, the same article that a piece of content people are looking for. We rank higher than the original piece of content because we have all of the sort of link juice of all the other related content and all the engagement around the content, as well. And email works really well. We do a weekly email, and that brings in a lot of people. And and maybe Twitter used to be 80% of the traffic when it within in the first year.
Okay, nice.
But
I guess it's more organic now because of the branding, and I guess people knows about it. And I guess the value has been set now, and now the crowd is also putting up the value, and they know what they have to contribute there.
Right. So a lot of people know enough to just they bookmark the site. They just come directly.
Awesome. So Anuj, if I may ask, because it's 300,000, right?
Yeah.
So 300,000 members, which is a huge number.
Right.
So what are the tools you use to keep them engaged?
So we think of community the same way that we think of product.
True. Obviously, it's obviously a side product. I always call it a community as a product.
Right. And so we use the same methodologies. Right. Is that we always try to figure out what would give them a great first experience.
Onboarding.
Right. And we don't really use any specific tools. We've actually made our own
Okay.
thing. So we actually stole the idea from Quora, where they have like this to-do list
Right.
when you first join, and we stole it, and that idea worked really well, and it's still there today. And to bring people back, the weekly email works really, really well because it's of all the great content that shows up, this is like the best of the best.
Yeah.
So that keeps them engaged a lot, and that's just MailChimp, which is connected to an internal tool that we built to plug a custom-built template into MailChimp, but also to A/B test every email that goes out. Half the audience is going to get a different version of the headline, so that's a good way to keep people sort of interested and wanting to open and then come back and engage.
Right.
Of course, buffer for all of the social media posts that bring people back, and we've got another custom tool that populates buffer because we tweet quite a bit. And beyond that, we use Optimizely to do A/B testing of certain pages and features. And we use things like Crazy Egg or Full Story to give us information about where do people click and how deep do they go into pages.
That's important.
We use this tool called MoEngage for browser push notifications, which works really great for AMAs. Or ticket deals for our conference, things like that. Something we used to do but currently don't because of a bug was a daily digest email of activity, because when you join, we ask you to pick some topics to follow. So anytime there's content in that topic you're following, or if you're following somebody on the platform and they post, you get notified of that. Or if you comment and somebody replies, or if you submit content and
you get notified.
But it can get to be too many notifications. So you get a daily digest which would have the top 5 or just the first 5 notifications, and then you can click through and see the rest.
Obviously,
and that works really well. It's just we don't do it because of a separate issue, but that is pretty much hands down the number one thing to just keep people coming back, because they tend to forget. But an email of activity which is directly relevant to your interests is always going to work no matter what.
Awesome. These are like really few, you said you don't use tools, but I guess I have got some really crazy ideas, and somehow the type of tools, I'll say, obviously they are the techniques which you're using, and definitely can be really helpful for people also.
And while you're there, let me mention one tool which I completely forgot. So we use Amplitude for our user level analytics, because Google Analytics will just give you aggregate data, but you need to know what people are doing.
Amplitude,
which is a competitor for Mixpanel or Kissmetrics. It's the same sort of thing. But so that way we can look at our user flows, where are people dropping off, and try to fix those things. That's how you get ideas for, let me test something different.
Awesome.
There, or you can identify people who come from Facebook, how do they behave, versus people who come directly, how do they behave. You can sort of see those different sorts of cohorts.
That's great that you have told about that tool. We shouldn't have missed that tool. Great. Okay then. So the next question which I have, I guess it's the problem for every community person, and telling about the ROI of your community, or say I'm going to ask you the impact this community is having on the business, the business of the organization. So how you measure that, and how?
So there's multiple ways. The reason people come to Growth Hackers is because they're looking for daily growth inspiration. So it's everything from what can I test next to how should I be thinking about introducing a growth culture into my organization, and everything in between. And so, but there's a lot of people that are just looking to learn about this growth hacking thing, and there's a lot of misinformation about what it is. So that's the first sort of hump to get over, is just get people on what growth is and what makes sustainable growth happen. and if you can get people over that hump, which mostly is a function of discussions, you have a few tracks you can take, because many people are at startups which are not yet ready to grow because they're not at product market fit. Some might just be there. And so for people who are just looking to learn more, so we have online training, and we have a book that Sean wrote. And so that helps people learn a lot more and have sort of foundational references.
And that's the paid model?
Yes. Yeah. So all the online training is paid for, and as is the book.
Okay.
And for people in slightly bigger companies, who have some sort of growth process, they'll do an annual conference.
So the community comes, obviously.
Right. And it's a small conference, but we have big names that come, but people can get inspired by, here's how, Instagram does growth, and here's how Adobe does growth.
Right,
and
absolutely.
so, it's always in their mind as to sort of how can I do what they're doing, and so we have a product that can help you. And in many other cases, there are people who just have a very good process, but it's, they could grow faster but can't because there's all this manualness of managing growth. And so that's where our product helps teams like that sort of just focus more on testing and learning than actually updating spreadsheets and Trello boards and things like that. And so depending on where you are in terms of your knowledge and what stage your startup is at, you can go directly. You might come to the Growth Hacker site and go directly to product. You might come to the community and then maybe go to book, which might take you to training, or you might go to training and then the book, and then the product, or you may come from community to conference to product. But all roads ultimately lead to the product, and so it's up to us to sort of figure out what are the segments. True. How do we direct people the right way so that ultimately they land up at the product. And so that is the true benefit of the community, is while it's unstructured, it is that central hub of inspiration and education that builds that central buy-in that this is the way sustainable growth happens. And once you're bought into, how, sort of what growth really means, when you get to the point of how do I make it happen now, that's when the product is always there, as the end point for anybody.
True. Yeah, I guess that makes a lot of sense. And true, if you have a little bit your pipeline streamlined from the community to the product, I guess it becomes easy to sell. And I guess if that is happening with Growth Hackers, I guess,
right. And in some cases, we don't do it as often as we should because of Growth Hackers is a small company, but we started putting these embeddable idea cards onto the community, which you can save into a free idea repository. And if you get to the point of product market fit, or you need to start testing ideas a lot, then the thinking is that now that you've saved all these ideas in a repository, like if you want to test them, what are you going to do? Are you going to now copy paste them into a spreadsheet, or are you just going to use a system that you can just click test idea and it unlocks the whole product experience for you?
Absolutely,
right? So which is why for us the community is just the first half of the product, and we introduce a light version of the product experience in terms of idea cards for you, so you can at least build up the backlog for whenever you're ready to start testing.
Awesome. That's interesting. Cool. I guess that's enough of knowledge for people in one shot. I feel I'll be having you for the live also in the group. Okay, we'll definitely do the live, and specifically on some problems which people are facing. But for today, I guess that's it. I guess I'll not ping you more. You're free from my custody, and you can go ahead and enjoy the day. We have after party after this thing. So probably,
sounds good.
Yeah, let's have for me it's gonna be another third night to have a party. So I'm really excited for that. So cool then.
As you should be.
Okay.
All right, man.
Thank you so much, Anuj.